Hi, today we're going to design a macro. It's going to be very useful for you for both your sales sheet and also anything to do with your fancy receipts where you might want to append a line to an existing table. So what I've got here is I've got a spreadsheet set up with three different tabs. Sorry, the tabs are so small down the bottom there. I've got data, sales, and home. Actually, home's not used. But basically what we want to do in this task is we want to grab the data that keeps coming up in A3 and B3 and append it to the bottom of the columns A and B on the sales table. So you can imagine we accumulating sales over a period of time. Maybe we're collecting the sales for a week or a day or whatever. So that's what we're going to try and investigate using really simple tools today. Hopefully you can use it in a whole bunch of your macros that you're doing, and hopefully just you learn a little bit more about constructing macros. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change my format of my screen. So it's really useful for you to do the same thing. What I'd recommend at this moment is that you pause the video, that you set up a spreadsheet that looks pretty much like mine with a data, a sales. You can leave the home off if you want. And just pause the video, do that, come back, and then what we're going to do is reset our screen as well, and I'll talk to you a bit about that. Okay, so hopefully by now you've got your at least two tabs there. Now what we want to do is we want to have a look at getting a split screen set up where we've got Visual Basic on one side and our spreadsheet on the other. This is a really good way to set up your screen if you want to do macro programming. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the Developer tab, and I'm going to click on Visual Basic. Now, this may come up full screen. It's hard to know how it's going to come up. It may come up something like that, covering part of the screen. We want to get it split screen with the Excel on the left-hand side. Now, there's multiple ways to do that. I've got information here for Mac. So on Mac, you would go up to the green arrow, and you can choose on the green arrow, tile to the left, tile to the right. And on Windows, there's multiple ways to do it as well. My favorite is Windows key plus left and right arrow. So we'll have a look at that. So I'm on a Windows. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my Visual Basic, and I'm going to press my Windows key, and I'm going to press my right arrow key. And you can see that it's taken up half the screen, and it's asking me now for what I want to fill the other half with. I'm going to select Excel. And now I've got this side-by-side sort of setup. Quite good. All right, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to record a macro, and it's going to call it macro whatever. And you can see down the bottom here, it's created modules. Once again, I apologize for it being so small. Go and have a look there. I'm going to click on module 1, open that up, and this is where it's actually recording. So you can see now that it's actually recording this macro as I'm talking, and you can see the code there. We no longer need this part of the display, so I'm going to close it just for tidiness sake. So we're just looking at our macro here. So this is a really good tool now. So while we're recording, I can see everything that it's doing. I can see how to do it, and I can hopefully learn from it. So I'm going to stop recording at this point, and maybe I'll just delete that so we've got a clean slate. All right, so we need to think about what we want to do here. So what we really want to do is we want to grab, for a start, this 23, and we want to go to sales, and we want to go down to the first free location on quantity, and we want to put it in there. So we want to do a few things. One of the first things that we want to do is we want to be able to select a particular sheet. Now you may already know how to do that, or you may not. We're going to go through that just for completeness sake. I press record again, and I can see my new macro coming up. I'm just going to click on data. And you can see here that that is the command for actually selecting a sheet. And if I put sales in there, I can select it. So I'm going to put a comment in there just so I can keep track of all of this stuff. I'm going to go select sheet. And so that's how I can select a sheet. Yep. Probably don't want that command in, so I can delete that command. And maybe even I'll stop recording at this point. So now we know how to select a sheet. We can select an item, and maybe let's do that. And if I go like this, I can say select A3. So now I know how to select A3. I might actually grab this. What I might do is I might put all these commands up the top here so that I can just keep track of them all. And once again, I'm going to put a comment in. If you haven't been putting comments, you should. A comment is the single quote, and then you can just type whatever you want in. The computer ignores whatever you type in. So I'm going to put in select cell. That's pretty good. And then, just for good measure, I'm going to go Control C. And now I've got the command to copy a cell. So basically, I'm just gathering all the ingredients at the moment. There we go. So if I select a cell and then copy a cell, that's great. Okay, now the tricky stuff starts. So what I want now is I want to be able to go down to the bottom of this list. Now, the first thing you should know about is that if you press Control and then down arrow, it's a hotkey to go straight down to the last item in a list. So just give that a bit of a practice. Go up to the top of a row and then Control down arrow, and you should get this command here. So this one we can say is go to bottom cell in column. The command in. So what we're going to need in our macro. One thing we do have a problem is that although we can go Control down arrow, we need to go down one more cell so that we can actually get to the first blank line. And that isn't so easy. You can see here, if I have the cursor here, have a look down here and see what, maybe let's delete all these commands. If I was to press the down arrow here at this stage, you can see that it's just giving me a range A5, which is no good because if I was over here, it would be range B5. So really, it's a very specific command, as in it's just telling us the exact cell to go to. And what we really want is a command that tells us to just go down one cell from wherever we are. To do that, we need relative references. So that's this thing up here. You'll need to click it on so that it goes gray. And then what you'll find is when we press the down arrow, I'll press it now, you can see we get a completely different command. And this is the one that we actually want. And so now if we use this command here, we know that we're going to go down one cell, which is great. So I think we've got just about all the ingredients we need now to start gathering, or to write a macro that will gather this information and put it down just in these rows here, or whichever the next rows are. So let's start writing our macro. So let's stop recording at this point, and let's actually write a macro from scratch. So we're going to write a macro called, we're going to call it sub, maybe append data. And I'm just copying really the format up here, bracket, bracket. And then what you really should do is put a comment in, say, this macro will take information from the data tab and append it to the next blank line in the sales tab. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So first things first, I think what we might do is we might select the data tab. So we're going to where we need to select a sheet. We're going to go like this, Control C, Control V, and it's already saying data, so that's fine. Selected the right sheet. Next, we need to select the A3 cell, which once again, recording is spot on. And then what we need to do is we need to copy it, copy and paste this. Then we need to do some of our fancy stuff to go down to the bottom here. So the first thing we're going to do is select the sales table. And so you can put comments here as well. So something like first we grab, or maybe copy, better word. We copy the info from data. Now we get the next blank line cell. So we want to, this time we're selecting the sales sheet, right? So we copy this line, change that to sales, the capitalization right. We're going to just select cell A1. We'll just go right up the top and then it can go down itself. And what are we going to do next? We're going to paste it. And actually, we've recorded a copy. We haven't actually recorded a paste. So we're going to have to go back into record and see what the paste command looks like. So we've got our new macro here. So if I wanted to go Control C, there's the copy command, and then Control V. That's just active sheet paste, so nothing really groundbreaking there. So let's go active sheet paste. Let's record this so that if we need it again, we'll have it. Okay, so let's see, we go and get the data, we select the one we want, we copy it, and we go into sheets, we go down to we go to A1. Oops, we're missing a few things in here. We need to go to the bottom of A1, right? So the bottom of A1 is this one here. So that goes down to the bottom. And then we need to go one more down after that, which was this one here. Oops. Okay, so at this point we're at the, so at this point now we've got our cursor down at the next blank line, and it should paste it down here. And so now we can say now paste the data, and that should paste the data in. And another interesting thing when we're in this split screen view that's quite useful is while our cursor is inside the append data, and we click on this little, once again, very small symbol for you, little arrow that says run, it should run that script. Let's see what happens, what it does. And you can see that it has copied that 23 there and put it in the next available column. Let's put our cursor there. Let's run it again. So you can see it's running beautifully. It's getting the next line and it's just appending, right? Now this is really useful code for you guys. So we've done this for quantity. You could obviously do the same thing for total. So probably you could duplicate all this stuff, and wherever you're doing an A, put a B more or less, and you'll have pretty much created a script that will append information. This method of doing command by command is really good because you actually learn the commands rather than just doing block, recording a whole bunch of keystrokes and then just copying and pasting it and not really understanding what you're doing. By doing this way, you're actually understanding what you're doing, and you can create more interesting scripts like this. So I'm going to leave this tutorial at this point. Hopefully it was useful for you, as I say, in a number of aspects of your assessment task, particularly your sales history and also creating a more complex receipt. Having said that, I would still recommend to you guys, create a simple receipt first, then work on getting your complicated receipt up and running after that. Okay, thanks for listening. See you in the next tutorial.